stab at 50-50 or whatever.
Sir, I don't have a crystal ball in front of me to project where I think it's going to end up.
Okay, anybody? I'm not asking for a crystal ball. I'm asking for what would be the right mix. If we
Welcome to Freedom Forge, where we break down the real stories behind the headlines and demand accountability from our government and military leaders. If you stand for a strong America, grounded in common sense and unapologetic patriotism, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. We cover the topics the mainstream media avoids and arm you with the facts that matter most for this country's security and future. Today, we're diving into a recent Senate hearing that most Americans haven't even heard about, but it could have enormous consequences for our national defense. The focus? How the Pentagon is allocating billions in taxpayers' dollars for military munitions. Specifically, the massive imbalance in funding between pricey, so-called exquisite, high-tech weapons and the affordable, battle-ready munitions that actually win wars. The hearing exposed how bureaucratic indecision, lack of transparency, and misplaced priorities are leaving the United States vulnerable in a world where peer-level threats like China and Russia continue to modernize at breakneck speed.
Let me ask this. The November 2025 Munitions Acceleration Council, just a few months ago, that plan allocates approximately 97% of funds to exquisite high-cost munitions and only 3% to the kind of weapons we're talking about, low-cost, higher volume alternatives. If we get going on this, given the need to sustain potential peer-level conflict, what balance do you think we need to get to, and how quickly can we do that? What's the right mix, 50-50, 60-40? Clearly, 97 to 3 is not what we're aiming at. So who wants to start first on that?
Senator, I'll start for the group. First off, I would say that's an indicator, first of all, of how quickly these munitions are developing and coming up to speed. I think you'll see as we come forward that balance will shift in favor of the developmental munitions, or at least that amount will increase. I think it's a testimony to our efforts as acquisition professionals and as a department to go out and figure out what that right mix is to present to planners. I also think it's a challenge as we figure out where these are in their developmental stage and we get them field them. So honestly, I think it's going to be a couple of years before we have a good understanding of what the true end balance is, if you will, for a right mix.
Okay, but that plan, it was a plan, and it was released only 4 months ago. So you're not willing to take a stab at 50-50 or whatever.
Sir, I don't have a crystal ball in front of me to project where I think it's going to end up.
Okay, anybody? I'm not asking for a crystal ball. I'm asking for what would be the right mix if we could get there. I'll just call on each of you. Admiral Ocano.
Chairman, I do think that for the MAC, it's really important that we stabilize the industrial base we have right now, and I think that's really important. So putting money to the multi-year procurements, I think, really helps us send that demand signal and start to shift the production lines for the existing missiles we have. In parallel, we are bringing on new entrants, and I think as we bring on the new entrants and test out their capabilities, I do think that, and also introduce them operationally, I do think that you're going to start seeing that percentage shift over time. We do have currently 4 destroyers in theater that have low-cost munitions on them. For counter-UAS, we're already seeing success there. And so we are installing another 8 destroyers with that system. So I do think you're seeing that ramp up fairly quickly over time.
Where would you like us to be a year from now? as opposed to 97 to 3%?
Chairman, I won't give you a specific answer, but I will say that if the acquisition community is doing our job right, we are giving as many options to the operational community as possible. And so flooding the zone with as many low-cost munition options for them to make those tactical choices would be success in my mind.
Dear, General Lyons, Zone 5 took 16 months to develop the rusty Dagger. It's a low-cost cruise missile, as opposed to 5 to 10 years. 16 months as opposed to 5 to 10 years. How did they do that? How is that possible?
Well, the first thing is the business recipe includes more than just Zone 5. And this same business recipe applies to other companies too, like Co-Aspire, a company called Andrel, and there are others. But it starts with making sure that the people that have the operational requirement give you the essential attributes. It's usually like a half of a paragraph of what matters. So in this particular case, it was 500 nautical mile range. That requirements process was fast. The second one was approaching industry for their ideas. Okay, we have these attributes, what can you build? And in fact, with that, where Zone 5 ended up as the finalist, there were over 100 companies that had a chance to put their ideas forward. 17 were viable, and 4 were we took to flight. And we had healthy involvement with them. Zone 5, just like the other companies, approached their design with a focus on building from day one. Usually when you make a prototype, it's a one-off, hard to build, hard to duplicate. The designs fundamentally are focused on fewer tools, fewer parts. The design is also open systems architecture, and Zone 5 had some expertise in that area. What that allows you to do with an open systems architecture is when you have changes in technology and changes on the battlefield, that you can swap in different seekers, different payload packages, and finally is the accelerated test and fielding. So Zone 5, although successful in 16 months, it's a business recipe that involved everyone.
You want to take a stab at my question about 97% versus 3%?
I do. Now, considering a few years ago, we were essentially at 0%, so we're in a better place now with actually taking action. We must have both the exquisite programs of record as well as the affordable mass weapons. Affordable mass weapons by every class. Cruise missiles, supersonic weapons, every class of weapon should have the same approach. In terms of percentage, here's what is going on inside the department. Many of us have been at the table since the summer, working on the strategy, looking at the supply chains of all of our known weapons. The discussions are now ongoing with respect to, and they have been going on for many months, about what we do with new entrants. So although I cannot give you a precise answer on what that percentage should look like, we are definitely at the table, all the services in a collaborative way with the Joint Staff and the Department of War to come up with that optimization. So not in my purview to answer that specifically, but I do know it needs to be greater than 0.
It's apparently not in anyone's purview, but I appreciate you all taking a stab at it. Senator Reed.
Let's get right into the heart of the matter. Senator after senator pressed the Pentagon's top brass and procurement experts to explain why, just a few months ago, the November 2025 Munitions Acceleration Council allocated about 97% of funds to expensive, high-tech munitions and only 3% to the kind of low-cost, high-volume weapons that we would actually need in a real, sustained conflict. It's a simple question. In the event of a major war, would you rather have a handful of exquisite missiles or enough affordable firepower to stay in the fight day after day, week after week? Our current allocation isn't just unbalanced, it's dangerous. When asked about the right mix, whether it should be 50-50 or 60-40, none of the Pentagon officials would give a straight answer. No one was willing to put their name to a target or a timeline for fixing this absurd imbalance. Their answers amounted to, it's complicated, and we don't have a crystal ball. Frankly, that's unacceptable for the world's most powerful military. As a taxpayer, and as someone who wants to see America prepared for whatever comes next, I find that evasive at best and reckless at worst. Contrast this indecision with the innovation happening in the private sector. The hearing highlighted a company called Zone 5, which developed a low-cost cruise missile, Rusty Dagger, in just 16 months. That's a breakthrough, especially when you realize it normally takes the defense bureaucracy 5 to 10 years to get something new into the field. How do they do it? By cutting through the red tape and letting American ingenuity thrive. They went straight to the operational experts, our war fighters, the people who truly understand what's needed. Then they crowdsourced ideas from over 100 companies, narrowed it down to the best contenders, and used open architecture to speed up design and deployment, not just for this missile, but for every class of affordable, adaptable weapon. This is how America should be building and buying defense technology. Fast, flexible, and focused on fielding real solutions, not just padding the Pentagon's favorite contractor's bottom line. The Pentagon's own numbers show that just a few years ago, we were at basically zero for these affordable mass weapons. Now, after a lot of prodding from outsiders and congressional watchdogs, we're finally seeing movement, but we're still nowhere near where we need to be. Multi-year procurement for high-priced missiles might make sense for some unique threats, but it is insanity to fund 97 out of every $100 on exquisite tech, while shortchanging the basic firepower our troops will need in a real war. Think about what this means for our readiness. If we ever face a peer adversary, whether it's China in the Pacific or Russia on NATO's doorstep, we need deep stockpiles, not just of silver bullet weapons, but of the affordable, reliable munitions that can keep our ships, planes, and ground forces in the fight over weeks and months. High-end missiles have their place, but quantity has a quality all its own, especially when the enemy can outproduce us with less sophisticated, mass-produced arms. And here's the issue that keeps coming up in these hearings. Washington and the Pentagon are addicted to process. Instead of working together, across military branches and with the private sector, to optimize our national defense, we let endless committees and timid bureaucrats slow everything down. The witnesses at this hearing admitted as much. While they talk about collaboration and optimization, nobody wanted to commit to increasing that pathetic 3% allocation to something that would actually make a difference, even though everyone knows we need real change. What infuriates me, and should infuriate every American who cares about our safety, is that this is exactly what happens when government puts process ahead of results. Private American businesses can innovate quickly when the government gets out of the way. Our military leaders know the right answer is to rebalance our investments, but they're afraid to say it out loud, maybe because it threatens entrenched interests or the revolving door between the Pentagon and defense contractors. I want to make this clear. This isn't about cutting-edge technology versus old-school weapons. This is about getting the right mix. We still need top-tier missiles and high-end capabilities, but we also need mountains of affordable, adaptable munitions, so we're not caught flat-footed when the next big fight comes. That's how you deter aggression and, if necessary, win. My message to Congress and the Pentagon couldn't be simpler. Stop hiding behind bureaucratic language and start making decisions that actually defend America. Use American innovation the way it's meant to be used. Fast, bold, and mission-focused. Don't let another year go by with 97% of our funds locked into a losing strategy. Our adversaries aren't waiting, and neither should we. If you believe in restoring real accountability, actual preparedness, and genuine innovation to America's defense, then Freedom Forge is the channel for you. Like, subscribe, and share this message so the American people can hold our leaders' feet to the fire. We need a military that's ready for the real world, not just the weapons showroom. Let's demand they get it right before it's too late.